Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett. In what once was a Week 3 victory Monday has now turned into a devastating loss for the San Francisco 49ers, as we have now learned star edge rusher and former defensive player of the year, Nick Bosa, will miss the remainder of the 2025 NFL season after suffering a season-ending ACL tear to his right knee. And all I can say, Dre, is why does this keep happening to the San Francisco 49ers, and how can they try to salvage what is left of this year? So many injuries, so much pain. We are reacting to it here. Put your comments in the YouTube chat. We will get to every single one of them. Dre, how you doing? Are you as depressed as I am right now after the Nick Bosa news?
Yeah, this is depressing. I mean, I'm like ready to cry. This is like the worst possible news we could have ever gotten. I'm wearing sunglasses just to hide the emotion coming out of my eyes right now. This is horrible. I cannot believe this happened.
Yeah.
He was literally high-stepping on the sidelines. He left the fucking locker room with an ace bandage wrapped around his leg. And I thought, hey, that's great. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
And now what do we do? This is just... All I can say is this. This is probably the most devastating news we could have gotten outside of Brock Purdy out for the year.
Which we've already lived through. George Kittle being out for the first 4 weeks or 5 weeks because of IR. Purdy has missed the last 2 games because of somewhat of a turf toe variant he has. And now you lose Nick Bosa, and it felt like the entire year, the offseason, training camp, preseason, and now San Francisco kept avoiding the big one. They kept avoiding the season-ending loss, and they kind of kept escaping missing one of their best players, and now they have been hit by the big one. And it's funny you bring up the actions of Nick Bosa on the sideline, because he looks up to the stands, assumingly at his parents in the booth up there in the suite, gives them the thumbs down.
Yeah.
And my assumption was, okay, he's walking on the knee still. He leaves the facility without crutches. It's just a leg sleeve. Kyle Shanahan says the initial diagnosis from the testing of the doctors and the team was that it wasn't an ACL injury. And he clarified and said, we can't rule that out, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. And now, less than 12 hours later, your star edge rusher is done for the season. So either your doctors suck, don't know what they're doing, and Shanahan didn't even talk to Nick Bosa before he left the building. And all the signs pointed towards this not being the case, this not being Nick Bosa out for the year for a second time with the San Francisco 49ers. It is his third time, and this is crazy to think about this. Every 5 years, 2015 as a senior in high school, partially torn right ACL. 2020 with San Francisco, torn left ACL against the New York Jets, and then 5 years later in 2025, a clean tear of the right ACL. The timelines are kind of muddied with this. Now that we have more testing, the real question becomes, how does San Francisco adjust with the defensive line and their defense? But let's live in the now and kind of just soak in this depressing moment of San Francisco's 3-0 without Brock Purdy, without George Kittle, without Ayuk and Demarcus Robinson. And at a moment when we finally felt like we were getting healthy, that the offense was finally going to get back to 100% against the Jaguars or the Rams or against the Buccaneers. In a 3 weeks time span, we're back. San Francisco's back to now of, we are kind of re-questioning how far this team can go without Nick Bosa, Dre.
I mean, Bobo's over here saying we should trade Nick Bosa in the Who's going to trade for him? He's hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is
You're
a
not
silver...
trading Nick Bosa.
No. If there is a silver lining to any of this, is that he can't demand a pay raise.
Yeah.
Although I would rather him be able to demand a pay raise, which would mean that he had a stellar season. And he was on his way to having a stellar season.
Right. And
he led the league in pressures. Sterling.
Think about those first 2 weeks. The first game against Seattle, San Francisco does not win that game without a Nick Bosa strip sack against Sam Darnold. Bosa won San Francisco that game on the road in Seattle. Week 2 against the Saints, Bryce Huff does it, but the drive before that, Nick Bosa gets the sack. He was, if not the most, one of the most impactful defensive players through 2 weeks of the NFL season. And what seemed like kind of a chip play, kind of a nonchalant, oh, my leg hurts, it gave out. Maybe it's a sprain, maybe some sort of whatever it could be, not an ACL tear. Okay, Nick's out for one game. We can survive. San Francisco's 3-0 to now you are down your best defensive player, not named Fred Warner. And your life gets a heck of a lot harder with Nick Bosa off the field. Like, this team had gone from, in some people's eyes, a 12-win team, NFC West winning team, to now you're questioning, are they a wild card team still? Are they a team that maybe because they don't have a finisher on the edge isn't going to make the playoffs as a whole? I don't want to undersell how big of a loss Nick Bosa is for this defense. It makes Mykel Williams' job harder. It makes Bryce Huff's job harder. Everyone's life gets harder without Nick Bosa, Dre.
Yeah, it's going to make things a lot harder. Now you're putting a lot more pressure on Mykel Williams to, to do more every game. Now he is your defensive end opposite Bryce Huff. And that was the whole point of getting Bryce Huff, was to give Bosa an experienced, fast edge rusher to really, kind of squeeze that pocket. And we saw formations where they were putting Mykel Williams in at D tackle, with Yatir Gross-Matos. I mean, it was really cool to see that sort of NASCAR package. Now, it's not like you lost Nick Bosa for a couple of weeks. No, you lost for the whole year. You won't see him again until next season. This is devastating for the entire team. And now it puts more of a strain on guys like Mykel Williams. It puts more of a strain on guys like Bryce Huff. Now he has to play more downs on the field, when really Bryce Huff is more of a pass rushing threat on third down. Now he's going to have to be out there on second down, first down, third down. He's going to be playing more downs because they're down a guy. Now, look, this could mean that it could give more opportunities to guys like CJ West, guys like Alfred Collins, giving them more time on the field, because now you're going to have to push Mykel Williams out to the defensive end position more often than you have been using him, because you don't have the mainstays like Nick Bosa filling in one of those spots. So now it does elevate those guys and gives them more playing time to be on the field. But damn, Sterling, this is absolutely the worst news we could have heard outside of Brock Purdy out for the season.
Well, I think about kind of a zoomed out approach. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, actually, no, this is worse than Brock Purdy after the season, because if they told us that Brock Purdy's after the season, at least we have Mac Jones.
I mean, yeah. Now, how far can Mac take you? I don't know, but he's won you 2 games.
According to some, he could take us all the way to the Super Bowl. He's already banged up. He's already banged up. They're crazy. They are.
But I think losing Brock Purdy's bigger. Obviously, he's your franchise quarterback, but you have been able to stay afloat. And look, San Francisco can still win games without Nick Bosa. Just like they've won games without George Kittle and Brock Purdy. It just gets so much harder. And when you zoom out, like, I kid you not, San Francisco had the perfect build for a defensive line. Nick Bosa on one end, Mykel on the other, Jordan Elliott playing great football on the interior, Alfred Collins, West mix in, Kalia Davis playing great out of his mind through 3 weeks. Then you have Bryce Huff off the edge on third downs. Mykel moves inside. They had the perfect defensive line. Yetur Gross-Matos on the inside. All of that was perfect. And to watch it flourish through 2.5 weeks, if you will, it was awesome to watch. Everyone left weeks 1, 2, and even 3 without Nick Bosa for 3/4 of it, saying this defense looks awesome. They're back. The run defense, the pass rush, everything looks great. The way they're mixing, matching everything, and now that's out the window. the ability for this defense to be able to go against other offensive lines, against quarterbacks and everything like that, like you no longer have the perfect mismatch for the opposition. Your life gets so much harder. And to the credit of the Niners defense, you just beat the Cardinals. Your defense played great without Nick Bosa. They have two terrible guards and didn't have their star left tackle. You are going to have harder challenges ahead against the Rams, against the Buccaneers, who are going to have Christian Wirfs back by then, against the Texans, who the offensive line's terrible, but still, it's hopefully a team not going to be winless by the time you face them in week 6. Like, it's not going to get easier. And you play the Cardinals and the Seahawks and the Rams again late in the season. So this is not, the Niners season is over, but their draft strategy of getting Mykel, having him on the outside, moving him on the inside, that's kind of out the window unless Yetur Gross-Matos and Sam Mukwanu play up to par, close to a Nick Bosa, which I wouldn't expect that of any of those guys because they're not Nick Bosa. You do not find replacements for guys like Nick Bosa. The Dallas Cowboys trade Micah Parsons away. You see the growth the Packers defense has taken because guys like Parsons, guys like Bosa are game-changing, game-wrecking talents. San Francisco no longer has that guy on the end. Now you're asking players like Bryce Huff, like Williams, like other guys in that room to now play 40, 50, 60% of the snaps when Bosa's out there for 95% of them. He's never off the field. It's rare he's off the field for these guys. And so to lose that, if you want to use the baseball analogy, he's your four-hitter. He's the guy you trust to bring runs home and get sacks and get takeaways, and he did that for you through 2 weeks. And it's brutal, man. This is such a brutal loss for them. And it's almost demoralizing to a point of like, we're so high. We're 3-0. San Francisco's on the rise. They've 2-0 in the NFC West. We're feeling ourselves. We're feeling good. They have some holes, but we're here. San Francisco is the only 3-0 team in the division. And then in one fell swoop, we just got freaking Negan'd Lucille to the back of the head, and we don't know what to do. Because this season, albeit it's not over with yet, they can win plenty more games.
Yeah.
It does make it so much harder to win games without Nick Bosa out there.
Yeah, I mean, not having him out there is pretty devastating. Yes, I know what Adam Griffin was saying is, that they did play 3 quarters without him.
Yeah.
But not that this is a great barometer or a great example to use, but look at last season. Last season, Javon Hargrave went down. The following week, I felt like Evan Anderson, Sam O, Jordan Elliott, I thought they all played really good. And I was like, you know what? I don't even think we need Hargrave. These guys all stepped up. This is great. You can step up when these guys go down, but for the longevity of the season, it's going to affect all of these guys.
Yeah.
And the only way that they're going to be able to overcome this and not overburden the rest of the players with more snaps, with more miles, is they're going to have to make a move to get another defensive end pass rusher. But I think even then, they have to see where they're at the trade deadline. How are they able to compete without Nick Bosa? My biggest fear is that, I still think they can win, against Jacksonville. But when we go against the Rams, now you don't have Nick Bosa out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. And who replaces Nick Bosa on the active roster? Do you recall Robert Beal?
Robert Beal Jr. maybe?
Ugh, barf.
So that's probably a good point to ask because you brought up trade deadline stuff. And we know San Francisco, they already traded for Bryce Huff. Nick Bosa's contract is guaranteed next year for $22 million. Like, you can't really afford to add somebody that's of a big contract to the roster this year. Now, obviously, some teams can eat money and whatever, but, this comes down to San Francisco. They want to carry over as much cap space as they can to continue to pay guys and absorb Brock Purdy's contract, George Kittle's contract, Fred Warner's contract, Nick Bosa's contract, Christian McCaffrey's contract, all these contracts. Like, you can't afford to go trade for, I've seen in the comments here, Trey Hendrickson or Max Crosby. Those guys aren't coming.
They don't just come over for free.
And do you want to risk having to trade away first-round picks, second-round picks? Now, third-round picks are different because you get compensation picks back, but San Francisco is not in a place to trade for or trade away, first day 1, day 2 picks. You can't do that. You can't do this at all. San Francisco, maybe they monitor how bad the Jets play and try to get Robert Saleh guys back in the room. But are the Jets, who are retooling and rebuilding, wanting to trade away their guys when they're a new regime in there? I don't think so. And obviously, we are 3 weeks into the season. A lot can change. A ton can change. Guys can get hurt. Matthew Stafford could go down, and it's Jimmy Garoppolo for the Rams. Other teams will have injuries to their roster. CeeDee Lamb is currently hurt with a high ankle sprain. It happens, right? The difference is that the Niners are not in a position, because of the aging roster, the 11 draft picks they just made, they're not trading for a star at the trade deadline. They're going to do what they did in 2021, bargain bin hunt, maybe try to find a Charles Omenihu type guy that can play the outside for you and give you some impact. Maybe you poach a bad team's edge rusher, but again, you're early into the season. You have to hope you can get to week 8, week 9 and see where you're at. While I do think San Francisco can beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, there's no promise they beat the Rams. There never was, even when fully healthy. There's no promise they beat the Buccaneers. There's no promise of that, even when they're fully healthy. Now, the Texans are bad, but my assumption is they'll get better as the year goes on. They can't be winless forever, right? That's a pretty good team overall, bad offensive line, mind you, but still, there's a real chance you walk into week 6, week 7, week 8, and you're around 500 now. That, to me, changes the outcome. And obviously, we're not there yet. San Francisco's 3-0, but the fan base shouldn't be saying, trade for Trey Hendrickson, trade for this guy and that guy.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But do you think San Francisco could make a deal? What, as a logical trade, would you think they could make? Because right now, obviously, teams are not going to part ways with players 3 weeks into the season. It's not going to happen. They're not going to.
I mean, you got to hope for a feud with the organization.
Yeah.
If Hendrickson was like, I don't want to be here, get me out of here. But even then, you're still going to have to give up a king's ransom to get these guys. No, I don't think they're going to make a move. I really don't. I mean, they might. But I think what they're going to do is say, okay, Mykel, you're the defensive end. And I think that, who do they promote? They got Sam O on the edge with Bryce Huff and Mykel Williams. They could promote Robert Beal. They could bring up Evan Anderson and kind of give more depth to the interior. But right now, it's like when you look at the guys who are free agents, let's say you're looking at the free agent market. I just saw an image somebody posted. You're looking at DeMarcus Walker, 30 years old. John Kaminsky, 29 years old. Shaq Barrett.
Yeah.
We've all heard of Shaq Barrett. He's about to be 33 years old.
He was in the booth in Tampa Bay with the dudes that were retired. He's done. He's not coming back.
He's done. O'Shag Hennessy. No, O'Shine Zymes. Well, I don't fucking know. Carl Lawson, Janarius Robinson, Alex Barrett. I mean, these are these guys going to make the difference of Nick Bosa? No. You're not replacing Nick Bosa. You can't. You cannot replace. If you said, well, we got to make a move.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not getting Micah Parsons. That deal's done. He would never. Dallas would never trade him here anyway.
It wouldn't happen anyways. Yeah,
it would happen anyway. Aiden Hutchinson is not going to be moved. He's coming off an ACL tear.
But even then, the only reason why you got Bryce Huff was because the Philadelphia Eagles were willing to eat half the contract.
Yes.
It took the other team willing to eat $8 million of that deal to San Francisco to say, okay, we'll do it. Now, obviously, it's worked out. And Bryce Huff against the Cardinals was awesome. Over 20% pass rush win rate. He's been a godsend for this defense. He's getting home. He's getting sacks. A 90.1, I think, PFF grade. He was the best defensive player on the field for San Francisco against the Cardinals. But maybe we should not try to think of replacing Nick Bosa 1-for-1. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen.
I love what Lisa says here, unless it's coming from Kyle. I'm holding on to a glimmer of hope. I wish that were the case, but if you got Schefter, Ian Rappaport, this is a done deal. It's devastating. Ruined my entire day. I was about to head home for work, and then I get this news, and I'm like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. I wanted to cry. I was like, this is one of the worst injuries we could have suffered this entire season.
Well, and think about what it was like in 2020, the last time Bosa tore his ACL. You were 0-1 against the Cardinals. You lost. There was fires in Santa Clara. Tevin Coleman couldn't play because he had sickle cell, and he was like, I'm not risking it. There was the COVID year. You were 0-1. You go on the road against the Jets. You lose Solomon Thomas. You lose Jimmy Garoppolo. You lose Nick Bosa. It was like Black Sunday of the year. It was terrible. And, now we're sitting here, and to San Francisco's credit again, they are 3-0. They have given themselves a little bit of cushion of games that you were probably going to lose anyways, you're definitely going to lose now. And it really kind of shows why winning games early is so important, to give yourself a break late in the year. And hopefully, now the pressure to me is on the offense. When Brock and Kittle and Ayuk and hopefully Pearsall can stay healthy and Trent can stay healthy and McCaffrey can stay healthy, fingers crossed, they have to carry the load now. Losing Nick Bosa in itself is catastrophic, but the offense has to be the force to carry this team. The defense saved you through 3 weeks. The offense now has to pick up their end of the bargain the remainder of the season now to hopefully bring you to a playoff run.
I mean, look, the Niners played great defensively yesterday, and 3/4 of that was without Nick Bosa. Sort of what I forgot who said it earlier, but still, that's something that I think the Niners can continue to do, is be a dominant defense. For the first time in years, I feel like the defense is playing as a singular unit, not just a bunch of guys that are out there doing their own thing, trying to pad their own stats, trying to figure things out on their own. They're playing as a unit. You could see it. You could see the unity amongst the players. How much of this is going to hurt morale in that locker room? How much of this is going to just...
Exactly what Joseph asks. This makes me worry about how it affects the locker room.
Absolutely. For all these young players that were coming up, CJ West, Mykel Williams, Alfred Collins, to see this happen, to see one of their captains go down, not just for a couple of weeks, but for the entire season. I mean, look, he could be there in the sidelines. He could be there, in the locker room to help support them, but he's not out there on the field. It's totally different now.
Yeah.
And I would say this, defensively, the only player that this would have been as devastating would have been if we lost Fred Warner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even then, I would say, well, at least you got D Winters and you still got Nick Bosa, but now you don't have Nick Bosa. And he was on a fucking tear. He was having a marvelous season.
I will say, and I'm not sure if you caught it, but did you hear what Trent Williams said after the game when hearing about Nick Bosa? He obviously didn't know what the injury was exactly, but did you hear what he said?
What did he say? Remind me, because I listened to him and McCaffrey talk.
The exact word he used, it was one word, buzzkill. And
yeah, he did say that.
When you hear that, when you hear your offensive captain who really had, Bosa was there in 19. Trent got there in 2020. The battles they've had in camp, the growth they've had together. Trent has gotten better since being in San Francisco because of Nick Bosa. Bosa's gotten better because of Trent being in San Francisco. And to hear one of your captains, who obviously has been through so much himself, he was hurt last year because of the ankle injury, and the way they battled. This team has lost 2 Super Bowls with Nick Bosa on the field. Walking off in defeat. And, to go through that and then how last year ended up for this team, so many injuries they've had, it's really disheartening. And now you're hearing Trent, who I'm sure like the team feels like game-winning field goal against the Cardinals. We don't win that game last year. We're 3-0. We're riding high. Mykel's playing great football. Bryce Huff's playing great football. The young defensive players are playing great football. Upton Stout, an amazing pass breakup against Zay Jones to get you the football back. D. Winters was awesome. They're playing a collectively great football on defense. The offense is kind of playing their part, albeit they can't run the football just yet, but they're getting healthier in the upcoming weeks, and they're feeling good. Like, we're about to go on a run, kind of good. Like, that's where they were at. Like, maybe Jacksonville, we can beat the Rams on the road. We can do that.
I think they still can beat the Rams, but this is just going to be much harder. Not having the guy that everyone has their attention on the defensive line, who draws double teams, who does so much for you, in stopping the run, sets the edge. He's your leading pass rusher. He was leading the league in pass rushing percentage. I think it was at like 95.5% and something like that, something crazy like that. This is pretty devastating.
Well, and I think, going back to how do you replace Nick Bosa? Because
you can't replace Nick Bosa.
You can't do it 1-for-1.
No.
And there was somebody in the YouTube chat that brought up, I think, an actually pretty nice trade target for them. It's Jalen Phillips out of Miami. I don't hate that. Same defensive scheme. He fit the defense. However, Phillips has a ton of injury history.
Yeah,
and
you don't want that.
Miami's not going to give him up for nothing. Now, if it's a 3rd-round draft pick or a 4th-round draft pick, why not take a flyer, give him Robert Saleh and see what he can do? Okay, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but Miami's going to want to get rid of one of their top draft picks of previous years for a 3rd-round draft pick, for a 4th-round draft pick. Like, yeah, Miami's kind of in shambles right now. Maybe they do have a fire sale, but that's more of guys like Tyreek Hill, because there's a big contract tied to him. Phillips is still on the rookie contract. There's no reason to trade him just yet. We have Bobo saying get Bradley Chubb and get Matthew Judon. The Niner Goat 16 saying they didn't pick up Phillips' 5th-year option. So again, maybe it is a pathway to getting more edge rushing help, but I don't think San Francisco necessarily needs to replace Nick Bosa 1-for-1. I think it is about finding a guy that can potentially keep the rotation as is, that can play outside on 3rd downs, can keep Mykel on the interior, and almost keep Bryce Huff off the field until he needs to be. Joseph Ehrenberg asks here, what about the Giants? They have Brian Burns on a big contract, not going to trade him, but maybe Kayvon Thibodeau, that's a guy who they just drafted Abdul Carter. Maybe if the Giants continue to stink this year, they're 0-3 now. Maybe Kayvon Thibodeau's a guy they can bring in. I don't know what his numbers look like this year, so forgive me, but there are some options. But those trades aren't going to happen until the actual trade deadline in like 6 weeks' time. So if you're San Francisco and if you're the fan base, do you believe San Francisco against the Jaguars, the Rams, the Buccaneers, and the Texans, the next 4 games, can you be, let's say, I don't know, 7-0? Probably not, but 6-1? Can you be 5-2? Can you put yourself in a spot that almost makes the front office feel like they can win this year? And that, to me, is the challenge ahead for this team as a collective group. You feel like you can win. You have your franchise quarterback. You have Fred Warner. You have the offensive firepower out there, right? Can you put the front office in a position that says, hey, we don't have Nick Bosa, but we owe it to the guys on the field who are still winning games against, say, the Buccaneers, the Rams, the Texans, good teams in football. Can you almost force the hand of Jed York to give in to Kyle and John after almost ripping away the money in the offseason? That, to me, is a big thing here.
Yeah.
We cannot forget, this front office said, we're not spending on guys unless it is elite-level dudes like Brock, Fred, and Kittle. We're not trading for dudes unless the other team is spending and buying part of the contract. Can this team now, if you believe they're contenders, force the hand of the front office to give in and go against what they were trying to do and accomplish during the offseason and peel back the curtain on the spending? Dre, what do you think about that? Can they do that?
I think that if they're successful in the next 6 weeks and they win a lot of their games, I think they can convince them, like, hey, we got a shot. Let's get a guy in here. But a lot can happen from then till now. I know Jalen Allen could be coming back. Again, he's just another dude with some skill. I mean, by getting another defensive end, you at least have the option of running the sort of NASCAR package. You got to have somebody else on the edge who's got speed. I don't know if Jalen Allen is that guy, but he could be.
Also super undersized.
He's very undersized, and there's a reason why he's not on the roster right now when they had him.
He'd be your 10th guy in the room, not your first guy. Or
exactly. And like Cleveland Farrell was out there. He just recently signed with the Chargers practice squad, but he's not really a pass rusher. He's a run defender who sets the edge. So, but it's a guy they're familiar with, so they might say, hey, let's bring him in here. Let's pluck him from their practice squad. They could look to bring in guys that they've had in here before. Try to recapture that kind of familiarity with the roster and the skill set. That's why I kind of talk about a Cleveland Farrell. But I think, to be honest, unless they do something dramatic in terms of like going on a fat win streak, I think we got what we got. We saw the progression of Mykel Williams, even this past Sunday, how good he was against the run, even in pass rush as well.
Do you think that we have seen Mykel not play in the entire preseason, miss a big chunk of training camp? Do you think that Mykel, the growth he's had in 3 short weeks, that may give San Francisco pause of needing to make a move, that they think, hey, we can survive. We can, be okay with Mykel and Bryce Huff being our edge rushers with Gross Matos and Okwanu mixed in?
I think they're going to. I think they're going to say, hey, look, we got what we got. Let's run with this, and let's let these guys prove themselves and see what we got. And then come the trade deadline, if we're still winning, still in contention, and these guys are proving that they can do what they've been doing, let's see what kind of help we can get them. You're not going to get a Trey Hendrickson. You're not going to get, these elite level edge rushers. You're not. I mean, there's a chance. They got Chase Young, but that was a particular.
He wasn't even good.
He wasn't good, but we didn't know that. But that was a particular situation in which the Commanders were looking to get out from under his contract. They probably knew, as we know now, that he was not the same player, and his work ethic and his attitude. They thought, you know what? Let's do this.
Yeah.
And, Randy Gregory's not going to come back. Even if he did, he wouldn't be able to do anything.
He also sucked. He was terrible.
He sucked.
He was terrible. Also, that was a 7th-round pick traded for him, so what we expect, but still.
Yeah.
I do want to bring back up the Kayvon Thibodeau conversation because
I think he'd be great.
Looking at the Giants' schedule, right? They're 0-3 currently. They've lost to the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Chiefs. They have the Chargers at home next weekend.
Brutal schedule.
Assumed, that's probably going to be a loss for the Giants. So 0-4. They play the Saints. You can probably say it's a win, but the Saints, you never know. That's a toss-up for me. The Giants are a better team, but you never know. Then they play the Eagles on October 9th, the Broncos on October 19th, and Philadelphia again October 26th. So the next 5 games, Chargers, Saints, Eagles, Broncos, Eagles. Now, there's a real chance they're a 1-win team by the time they play San Francisco. I believe it's in week 8 or 9, right? They're 0-3 now. Yeah, week 9, week 10, whatever it is. Like, you could really get into a conversation about Kayvon Thibodeau if the Giants are a 1-win team by the trade deadline. Kayvon Thibodeau is out there. Now, again, it depends on what they view him as and what they believe him as. Don't forget, first-round pick a handful of years ago in 2022, 5th overall. But they have Abdul Carter. They have Brian Burns. They can also think that, hey, Brian Daboll is not here for the long haul. He'll get fired halfway through the season. Maybe he's gone. It's a regime change. Thibodeau, former first-round picks out the door. Having a pretty good year. 12 pressures, 2 sacks, 7 hurries, 3 quarterback hits. Again, having a pretty good season for the Giants. So maybe it's an option. They did pick up his fifth year option, so he would have some kind of contractual control for San Francisco next year, which if they like him, they can always kind of, redo his deal and everything, which I think that may feel like the best deal possible for them if the Giants are bad. So we'll see how it gets there, but that certainly is an option. But I do think that Mykel and his growth so far in 3 weeks will at least have San Francisco pump the brakes. They're going to reel in this. They're going to kind of live in the moment and say, hey, let's play Jacksonville, assess what we have, and then go forward. But we have a comment here by Gabriel on YouTube that says, call me crazy, but I feel like Saleh is going to make the best out of the situation. And I think that right there, and Dre, tell me if I'm wrong here, am I wrong to believe that Robert Saleh is maybe the best remedy to losing a player like Nick Bosa?
Well, I'll tell you what, if we had Nick Sorensen right now, I'd say the whole season's over. I'd be like, we're done. Fold up shop. Call Spirit Halloween. Call Spirit Halloween. Tell them Levi Stadium is available. Go ahead and start setting up. It's over. But no, we have Robert Saleh. He's going to game plan for this. He's going to scheme things up for everybody to be more successful on the defense. I still think this defense can play at a very high level because they're playing at a high level right now in a lot of different phases. And like I said, I still worry about the effect this is going to have on just the morale in the locker room, losing a leader, a captain in Nick Bosa. But let me ask you this. Let's entertain the idea. Let's say John Lynch said, you know what? Let me call the Bengals, and let me see if they're willing to move Trey Hendrickson. Okay, let's just say he does this, right? And the Bengals say, yeah.
John always calls. He will always call. We know that. So John always makes calls.
If they were going to make this move, what would it cost to get a guy like Trey Hendrickson? I'm talking, you'd have to give up a bunch of draft picks.
2 first-round draft picks in a third, maybe a 1, 2, and a 3, a 1, 2, and a 4. Like, it's not going to be cheap.
But here's the question you got to ask yourself: when you start considering a trade like this, right? Because any of us would say, yeah, that would work. I would just do it because Hendrickson, he just had a new contract, so he'd be great. But is this the year? Would you say, let's make this move because this is the year that we go all in? We could be in the Super Bowl. I don't know if this is that year.
No.
And so if this was 2 years ago, the year we got Chase Young, that's a different story. Because then you're like, hey, we're flying right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the year that you're overly confident to the point where you say, hey, let's make this trade. Let's trade away our first-round draft picks. Let's bring this guy in here. Let's go for it.
You should never make an emotional trade.
Exactly.
If John calls right now and is like, we'll give you anything you want. It's like,
yeah, just get him in here. He doesn't know our scheme or anything, but it's fine. This is not baseball. This is not basketball. Like in baseball, you can make a trade for a big player, and it's not like, how do you guys play defense? How do you guys swing the bats? No, just go out there and swing and then go play outfield or whatever position you play. Basketball, if you don't know the offense, just go out there. Just go shoot. Just go out there and play. You know what I mean?
Unless you're Jonathan Kuminga, then no. But
yeah, then no. But you know what I mean, though. Like when a new player comes in, first few games, they're just out there.
Just take Bryce Huff, for example. Philadelphia gets him last year, doesn't fit the scheme, and he's an inactive player in the Super Bowl. Which obviously you have to be smarter than that. It was a big miss by Philadelphia, but I do wonder, with the 49ers and the way the defense is played and everything. You mentioned, is this the year to go all in? And it's funny how quickly we go from, they're recalibrating, they're retooling, they're shedding money to, you better make that trade. If you don't make that trade, the season's over. You better go all in. Because some fans are like that. Some fans view this as, this is the window. And fans view the window as slowly closing and San Francisco trying to pry it open. And when you lose Nick Bosa for, let's be honest here. Nick Bosa has now suffered 2 torn ACLs. One in his left knee, one in his right knee now. The recovery time will be an entire season. right? And
Yeah.
you hope Bosa can come back and be the same. There is no promise Nick Bosa comes back and is the same. Now, he's a specimen. It's modern medicine. The odds of that have increased since 2006, 2015, and probably even since Bosa tore his ACL in 2020, right? But now he has 2 ACL tears in both knees. He's nearing or is 30 years old now. Like, he's getting older. You have to start to wonder, you got to find more dudes that are younger in that room. And look, I love Nick Bosa. He's great, but there does need to be some realistic conversation of, by the time Nick gets back, it'll be 2026. And right now, the age of Nick Bosa, he's 27 years old. He turns 28 in almost a month to the day on October 23rd. He's not going to come back until he's nearly 29.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's in great shape.
Right.
I'll give him that.
A specimen.
Incredible. Yeah.
A specimen.
Incredible.
But it's like, you're sitting here thinking, like, not if the best Nick Bosa is behind him, more so, can you get any Nick Bosa back? Which I think they can. But it's simply just saying that you go under the knife over and over again, you do not come out the same over and over again, and that needs to be part of the conversation. Now, yes, Larry Matthews says here in the YouTube chat, the clean tear is encouraging. Yes, Bosa has no other ligament damage in his knee. It is a clean tear of the ACL. And I want to ask you this. We have seen guys tear their ACLs, and let's say San Francisco makes the playoffs.
I was about to go there.
I
didn't want to, but I mentally I was already there.
The conversation.
It is. It is.
Would Nick Bosa maybe risk it to go out there and maybe claim his first Lombardi trophy? Having missed it twice in 2019 and 2023, would Bosa forcibly, force his way back onto the field, come back earlier than he should, and make a miraculous recovery? Do you think that's an option?
It's possible, but I think it would be like an NFC title game or Super Bowl. I don't think it'd be anything earlier than that.
Right.
And I think that, like, if he was cleared to do it, they would bring him back. Because obviously by then you would have suffered other injuries and other guys are banged up. Right. So, and look, is this completely unheard of? Well, not exactly. I remember a number of years ago.
Didn't Terrell Suggs do it for the Ravens?
I want to say Terrell Suggs did it. I don't know. In baseball, Kyle Schwarber did it, where he tore his ACL and came back and played the World Series.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of sport, but still, he came all the way back and he hit a home run. You got to remember, too, is that it's not like he's a linebacker, a defensive tackle. He's an edge rusher.
Yeah.
And what do you do on the edge? You're literally running with your, the type of tension and pressure you're putting on your knees.
Your stance in itself. Your stance in itself is bad for you.
Yeah, it's not conducive to keeping a healthy set of knees, especially coming off an ACL tear. So I would love for him to come back, and I think it's possible late in the season, but I think that at this point, he's likely done for the year.
It would
I
take
think
Super Bowl level of effort to come back.
It would be Super Bowl, maybe NFC title game. That's if we even get that far. But one thing that I do agree with what you said earlier, with what's happening now, the pressure has to go on the offense. You have to be able to play complementary football and start scoring on a consistent basis in order to support your defense. With this kind of a loss, your defense is going to need more support.
Yeah.
And you're getting Demarcus Robinson back. That's going to help. The following week, you should be getting George Kittle back. Later, Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
But, Brock Purdy. Hopefully, I think Brock Purdy next week. Because Mac Jones pretty much.
Him and DeMarcus will be out there against the Jaguars most likely. But now I think about, okay, like looking at San Francisco, excuse me here, knocking my camera around.
He's so mad.
I'm so angry. Nick Bosa's out for the year. God.
He's like, I tore my ACL.
Looking at the Niners' schedule they've played already so far. And to be fair, it's been the Seahawks, it's been the Saints, it's been the Cardinals. Not great offenses. Like, we don't put those teams up in the grouping of good offenses. And they'll play good offenses here pretty soon. The Rams are a heck of an offense. The Buccaneers are a gritty offense that is getting back Chris Godwin, probably going to have back Mike Evans in a week or two.
Maybe he has that hamstring injury, so that could have him out for a few weeks, but we'll see.
That's 2 weeks away, mind you, so maybe he's back. Who knows? Tristan Wirfs should be back by that time.
Yes.
You'll play the Rams again later. You'll play some better offenses as the year goes on. I mean, heck, even that Colts game against Daniel Jones doesn't feel like a guaranteed win anymore because he's playing lights out. But the Niners have held opposing offenses to 13 points, 21 points, and 15 points. The Jaguars, I think they can hold to under 20, but now we go from can you hold opposing offenses to 18 to 20 to you may have to, limit do you think the Niners offense in itself, can they score 26 points a game? Because you're going to give up more points without Nick Bosa. The odds are you're giving up 20, 24 points, 23 points a game now. So can the offense put up 26 points a game, which they really haven't been able to? Granted, they're hurt, but how much do you trust guys like Purdy, Kittle, Ayuk whenever he comes back, Pearsall and his emergence, who looks awesome through 3 weeks? How much do you trust those guys to be able to pick up the slack in now Bosa's absence?
I mean, when it comes to Pearsall, I mean, the guy had what? He had 9 catches yesterday for eight catches for over 100 yards. He's unbelievable. Great hands. I think he's going to continue to do what he's doing. I think what they really need is George Kittle back. That's a huge part of their offense that they don't have. We've seen flashes of Jake Tonjes, but really it's like, oh, what a great play. Kittle would have done it probably a little bit better, but still it was awesome that you did that. That's cool. And so getting him back is going to help. Brandon Ayuk is going to help as well. But it's going to take Ayuk at least a few weeks to get back into the rhythm of things. The guy hasn't played in over a year. But I think having 2 man beaters in Ayuk and Pearsall is going to help a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, Jog Young is injured right now. We don't want him back. I would rather have an injured Nick Bosa than bring Jog Young back. With the arm reach. Ugh.
Yeah, did we not see the effort against the Lions in the playoff game where he's just like, the guy's right behind me, I'm going to jog. No, tackle, run.
Larry,
it's your name.
Larry called that out. He asked that question to Kyle Shanahan. He's like, is that the mentality of your defense? No. He's like, no, it's not the mentality. No. Then all of a sudden, it started a chain reaction of events where all of a sudden Wilkes was like, hey, by the way, that's not how we like to do things around here. And it was just like, oh, my God, what have you done? But I'm glad he brought it up. But still, it's just the Niners defense is already really, really good. They lost probably their best defensive player outside of Fred Warner. But luckily, they had a lot of depth at the defensive line position. Last year, when Hargrave went down, he was already a disappointment, and then shit just got worse after that because you were already thin at the defensive line. You even had Leonard Floyd, who's also a thin guy, so you were thin all the way around.
Yeah.
This year is a little different, and this is what makes the acquisition of Bryce Huff so important. Imagine if we didn't have Bryce Huff.
Yeah, but do you think his numbers are going to go down now?
Yes, I do.
If he's out there for, let's say first, second, and third down, obviously they'll try to mix guys in. My assumption is you'll see much more Samuel Kawanu.
Yes.
And he'll take Bosa's spot on the starting lineup to kind of move Huff in and out. But Huff's stats are probably going to go down, which, okay, you can't expect Huff to have a 20 pass rush win rate every single weekend. It's not going to happen. But right now, Huff is in that top 15, 10 group of edge rushing pass rushers. So they have to find a way to get him just out on third downs or only on what they believe are pass rushing downs in themselves. And, we're talking about, how to replace Bosa and everything and kind of the whole thing, kind of a zoomed out perspective of, Bosa himself and the defense and everything. And while Huff played great against the Cardinals, Mykel played out of his mind against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Awesome. The run defense was tremendous without Nick Bosa. That should not be taken away from this. The Cardinals' offensive line is not good. Didn't have their left tackle. their two guards are bad. Like there's reasons for that. They haven't ran the football all year long. Now again, they had 22 pressures. That's awesome. But going back to Nick Bosa specifically here, a group of this fan base has really come to the point where they think Bosa is overrated. They think that he's often injured, that the contract is a waste of money, that he's not in the grouping of, let's say, Myles Garrett or a TJ Watt or other defensive player of the year winners in previous seasons. This probably gives them more firepower now. When Nick Bosa looked great through the first 2 weeks and a quarter, but now that group that believes Bosa is overrated, overpaid, and has underperformed, they now feel completely vindicated. Do you now inch closer towards that group, or are you still saying, no, Bosa's a man, he's a dog, he's a dude?
No, I think Bosa is a freaking animal. And when he comes back next season, he's going to be really, really good. We saw him even after the year he came back from his ACL. He was really, really good. Yeah. So, look, this gives him more time. This sounds. I hate saying this. This gives him more time to heal and to get healthy for next season. And if he came back at the end of the year in the playoffs, that'd be fucking amazing. But I don't think that's going to happen. He's being paid too much money to risk any kind of injury to come back, unless it's an extreme circumstance. But no, I don't. My opinion has not wavered on Nick Bosa. Even last season, when you had heads out there saying he's overrated, he's overpaid, he's not producing like he did in 2019. Look, he is a factor. Every single down he is out there, he is accounted for. Every single down he is out there. When he lines up on either edge, the offensive line and the blocking, the tight ends, they're all looking at where is Nick Bosa? How do we stop him?
They double team him all the time. That's why it opens up things for Bryce Huff, for Mykel. Because Bosa's taking up double teams.
Right. And what happened? Last season, he played the most snaps he's ever played in his career. And we saw towards the end of the year, he was tired. He was worn out. The year before that, a lot of snaps all the way to the Super Bowl. Worn out, tired. What was the plan this year? Let's get a bunch of guys in here. Let's draft heavy on the defensive line. Let's get in Bryce Huff. Let's give Bosa, not only let's give the new guys, the young guys, mentors to work from. Yeah. Rotational pieces. But let's give Nick Bosa a chance to take some plays off because we have added depth to our defensive line. Well, now that concept's out the window because he's gone.
Well, I just think about it from the perspective of, like, they were setting up Bosa to have a monster season. Because you have Mykel, you have some more guys in the room, you bring Saleh back, you have Bryce Huff. Like, the way they're freeing up space for Bosa to get home, which showed itself in the first 2 weeks, like, San Francisco was, like, they drafted and they went in the offseason and said, hey, we got to get Bosa open. We have to give him more space to maneuver and really get him out there and hopefully get some more sacks and bring guys home. And knowing that's not going to come to fruition now, obviously Mykel will be here for the next 4+ years if he's good. And hopefully, Saleh can stay. But like the thought of, Nick Bosa back with Robert Saleh and this defensive line, what could it be? Not to quote Kanye West, but it's like, I guess we'll never know.
We'll never know. Because we don't even know if Saleh will be here next year. He probably won't. He'll probably leave.
Like, and to get that little taste of it, like, oh, man, like, what could that look like for 18 weeks? We'll never know now unless they run it back, which isn't out of the question, but the odds are not very high of that. I also want to bring this up because you mentioned, Bosa.
I wanted to ask you, do you think he's overrated? Do you think that this is a guy that is paid too much money, is not contributing the way he used to contribute?
No, I mean, come on. Like, you were talking about a guy that had 21 sacks in a season, that has had double-digit sacks every year, has been healthy. Obviously, last year was a bad season as a whole, and you can get into the whole playoff thing. But once playoff comes, because San Francisco, whether it's 2023 or 2022, they have not had the defensive line to, have the offensive line occupy the other edge rusher with two guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the reason why Bosa popped early in his career was because it was Armstead and Buckner and Ford and all DJ Jones, all these guys to absorb
They were just
double teams.
running through offensive lines. It was beautiful. They were just like
and let Bosa beat dudes one-on-one. And in subsequent seasons, they haven't really had that. That's why this year was like, oh, he finally has dudes that can beat guys 1v1 and make and not let the opposing offensive line just focus on him the entire time. That's what happened last year, right? And even then, like, go to the stat book. Like, the box score says Bosa, rookie season, 14 sacks, 2021, and this is a big note here, and why I do want to give some fans hope. The last time Nick Bosa tore his ACL, he came back with the freaking vengeance. He had 21 sacks in 2021. He had 88 total pressures. He was a monster. He ended up winning Defensive Player of the Year. So maybe there is a hope for if they can maybe bring back Robert Saleh, maybe something else or someone else comes in and is of equal footing to that. Bosa comes back and it's just incredible. Now, it's a big ask, obviously, to be Defensive Player of the Year again, but there is some of that hope at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
But it is at the cost of this season. However,
I mean, he was doing that already. I felt like he was already on pace for a Defensive Player of the Year nomination. The way he was playing and the amount of pressures he was getting on the quarterback, we saw what he did in Week 1. He basically won the game for the Niners. And look, here's my thing. Obviously, look, you listen to who you want to listen to. It's fine. But anyone who's telling you that this guy's overrated, this guy's overpaid, any of that jargon doesn't know what they're talking about. This guy is a factor.
For example, Nick Bosa through 2 weeks. Let's not count the 7 snaps he played on Sunday against the Cardinals yesterday. Through 2 games, 10 pressures. He had 2 sacks. He was on pace for 135 pressures. 135 pressures.
Wow.
And 30 sacks. Now, obviously, those numbers are going to come down. You're going to play better offensive linemen, but Bosa was on track for his best season ever with the San Francisco 49ers through, again, 2 weeks, which isn't a big sample size. So, like, it really, like, that's why it hurts, because you get a small glimpse of what this defense could be with Nick Bosa and how big of a loss it is. Like, when you're trotting out a guy that is nearly guaranteed to give you 5 pressures and 1 sack a game, that's crazy. That's crazy. And to lose that kind of potential production on the other side of Bryce Huff and Mykel and on this defense that desperately needs to have a big year from him, it's really disheartening. But back to your question, no, I don't think he's overrated. Again, go back to the box scores. He has had, since 2021, so post-ACL tear, 21 sacks, 19 sacks, 16 sacks, 88 pressures, 98 pressures, 122 pressures in 2023. That is elite level stuff. Every other team in football wants Nick Bosa.
Anyone who tells you that they should move on from Nick Bosa is likely the same people that say they should move on from Kyle Shanahan. And the rest of the league, you know what they say? You want to move on from Kyle Shanahan?
Please.
We'll take him.
Please do it.
We'll drive down there and pick him up right now.
Yeah.
So no, you don't move on from Nick Bosa, but you got to move forward this season. Now, I even see Brad Graham out there posting videos of Trey Hendrickson saying this is the best replacement for Nick Bosa. Okay, we talked about this earlier.
It's money.
It's
money.
not. I mean, money's one thing, but like it's not worth mortgaging your future in the draft for Trey Hendrickson. And then what? When Bosa comes back, I mean, obviously Huff will be gone, and you'll have those two as your bookends. Hey, that's awesome. If you can pull it off, it's great, but you're mortgaging your future in the draft. And you're putting yourself right back where you were a few years ago with no first-round draft picks because you went after Trey Hendrickson. Now, unless the Bengals are dumb and says, okay, we'll do it for a couple of thirds and 1 second-round pick, then, well, okay, hey, maybe.
Well, This is actually kind of a good point to bring back up Trey Hendrickson because he's on a 1-year deal with the Bengals. So he is a UDFA next year, an unrestricted free agent.
Okay.
But he is getting paid a $16 million base salary, has a $25 million cap hit. And let's say he's traded for whatever reason. Like, again, the Bengals are going to have to eat part of that money. It depends on the time, the date of the trade. Like, it'll take the Bengals eating some of the money, which they don't even want to pay him to play for them. Why would they pay him to play for somebody else? And yes, it'll drive down the contract. They won't have, or the trade value. They're not going to have much leverage. It probably wouldn't cost you like 3 first-round draft picks. But if you are San Francisco trying to retool and still fit in guys you want to pay, like Kittle, Lenore, Purdy, Warner, Bosa, McCaffrey, Trent Williams, like, you got to pay dudes still. Like, don't forget, D. Winters in a year's time, if he continues to play well, it's only a 4-year contract. He's in year 3. You may want to extend him. You may want to extend Bryce Huff if you can bring back. Like, there are other things to take into account than simply just replacing Nick Bosa. You have to have the long view on this, and whether it's 1 first-round draft pick, a high-end number 2, is that worth Trey Hendrickson? Now, maybe Joe Burrow's injury, it just annihilates the Bengals season and they are like the Giants and they're done, and maybe it makes them feel more comfortable selling at the deadline for cheaper. That's out there, but the odds are slim that's going to happen. If anything, they're not going to take anything less than a 3rd-round pick for Trey Hendrickson, which that isn't that bad of a deal for San Francisco, but they're probably going to want more than that, knowing if he leaves for a likely huge contract, they're getting a 3rd-round compensation pick anyways. So you're talking about a late day 2 pick or more for Trey Hendrickson. And so to me, you are bargain bin shopping for guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, who are already kind of on the outs on their own team.
Yeah.
Hendrickson is the guy in Cincinnati.
He's the guy.
So that feels like it's not an option, but we have a question here from Lori Matthews, and we love Lori out there in Phoenix, and she asks here, Sterling, what do you think the changes are the Niners are going to add someone that can soften the blow or loss of Bosa? We kind of already talked about, bargain bin shopping, Kayvon Thibodeau. Maybe you go get Jalen Phillips, but the odds are, and I haven't checked too much of because I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting to be in the market for an edge rusher in week number 4 or after week 4. Like, who would have thought this is coming? So maybe I can get back to you, Lori, but Dre, as of right now, we've been here for an hour. We're kind of relishing in the moment of how terrible this is and kind of sulking here, being depressed on a Victory Monday.
On a Victory Monday!
San Francisco won. But just describe to me what your initial thought was the minute you saw the news, because I'm sure the fan base felt the exact same way.
No Super Bowl. That was my first thought. There's no way. There's no way. That was my first thought. Obviously, well, actually, my first thought was, this fucking sucks. And then it was no Super Bowl. Because he's your star defensive end. And you know, not having him is huge. And how good he is against the run as well. A lot of these edge rushers, there's a lot of them that are really good at rushing the quarterback, but they're not that great against the run. Nick Bosa is good at both. And you know, I think Kayvon Thibodeau would be a viable option that wouldn't cause you to, mortgage your future,
right?
All your first round picks.
You'd have him for a year and another year after that.
Well, but with Trey Hendrickson, at least he's on a 1-year deal. So they can only ask for so much before you say, well, look, hold on. He's on a 1-year deal. Okay. This is in Major League Baseball where a 1-year deal, oh, that's the guy I want. Because then he's a rental. But again, you have to ask yourself, okay, do I go out and make this trade for Trey Hendrickson and trade a bunch of draft picks to get him? Because this is the year we're going to win it? I don't think you do that. I don't think this team has proven enough that this is a team that can win the Super Bowl. Do I think they can win it? Yeah, I do. But as an ownership, as a part of management, You have to assess, is this team capable of winning a Super Bowl this year? Because if you trade for Hendrickson, you only got him for 1 year.
And that makes you believe that the front office thinks they can.
Yes. It all depends on what they believe that we can do. We can cry all we want about how they can win it or they're not going to win it, but it's up to me. It's up to the.
You gotta convince the guys at the top.
Yeah,
you have to convince
and like you were
Jed
saying,
and Frog.
Jed York already said no more spending, no more spending. But yet we're going to go out and get Trey Hendrickson and absorb his fat contract for 1 year. And if you did that,
go ahead.
But if you did that, knowing that Nick Bosa was going to come back in 8 to 12
February.
weeks,
then
you're like, well, hey, I mean, when he comes back, it will be even more devastating. No, he's out for the year, so you can wipe the idea of Nick Bosa being on this roster this season because he's not. He's done.
I found it kind of interesting that in the offseason, you can tell that Shanahan was a little bit demoralized of like, obviously we lost in the Super Bowl, had a bad year, and now there have been kind of restraints put on me as a head coach / GM, and we have to kind of recalibrate our thinking, and that kind of bummed him out, not being able to be super aggressive on things. And so we've kind of already said this, but kind of going back to the main point of you lose Bosa, it's up to the offense, and yes, the defense too, but it's up for Kyle and Brock and Kittle and Pearsall and McCaffrey and the offense to prove that they're worth going all in on.
Yeah.
And so, it really is about, can you convince the guys at the top to spend more money? And Jed doesn't feel like that's where he's at mentally of like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather cut some costs and free up some money and whatnot. But maybe 3-0 changes the mindset. Maybe again, if they are, 6-3 in week 9, it changes the mindset. And maybe having the easiest schedule in football changes the mindset. But okay, let's think hypothetically here. Let's say you are 6-3 at the trade deadline, or 5-2, whatever you are at the trade deadline. And you're okay, like, we're good. We're at the top of the NFC West, or we're tied there with the Rams or the Seahawks or whatever, and we're in a good spot to make the playoffs. The question isn't going all in on this year. The question is, do you, one, believe you can win it all? But two, are you okay mortgaging your future to do it?
Yeah,
And it doesn't seem like San Francisco, with how they operated in the offseason, changes that. We have a great question, though, by Gabriel here. On the flip side of the conversation, does this make, and I'll even change this to a certain extent, does it lean San Francisco more to being a seller at the trade deadline?
No,
Do we see them maybe being more willing to move guys like Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and et cetera? That would, again, depend on the record. I think San Francisco, knowing they're reliant on so many young guys on the defense and even on the offense to a certain extent, I don't think that would push them more towards selling. You really can't sell Kittle. You can't sell McCaffrey. You can't really sell any of the big guys on the roster. Yeah. Now, if San Francisco's record tanks, you could see them start moving guys, let's say like Bryce Huff, on a 1-year contract. You can see maybe them at the trade deadline. If Ayuk is back by then, maybe that conversation perks back up. But the odds are so slim. San Francisco will probably win against the Jaguars on Sunday. They're a better team than the Jaguars are. And even if they're 4-0 and lose their next 3 games and they're 4-3 in week 7, they're still in a really good spot to go on a run at some point during the year. So
when is the trade deadline? Like, what week is it? Do we know?
I think it's week 10. I think they moved it back.
Okay. What is this?
The trade deadline day is Tuesday, November 5th. That's what it was last year. I'm assuming it's the same as this year too. So let's assume it is November 5th or the week after. I think it is week 10 of the NFL season, because that would be following, if those dates align, after the Giants game in week 10. So around week 10 going into week 11, I believe.
Well, I mean, look, I'm seeing a list now of like Daniil Hunter. I don't see that. I mean, the guy's
The Texans aren't. They paid him last year.
yeah, he's 31 years old. No, you don't. No, you don't. And Kayvon Thibodeau, I think is probably the best option. Bradley Chubb, I'm not. I could care less.
Old, often injured.
Yeah, he tore his ACL not too long ago as well.
He tore it last year.
Yeah. And so that's why for me, it's like, look, I think they're going to go to some familiar faces. They're going to see some of the guys that they've used before.
Arden Key could come back from Tennessee.
Arden Key, Amenahu, those kind of names. I mean, those kind of people, not them specifically, but those kind of guys. I think that's who they're going to try and target to bring back in here and to add some, not only some familiarity, but some familiar veteran leadership that they're going to be lacking without Nick Bosa being there every single day in practice. You know, he may visit now and then, like, "Hey guys, I'm on fucking this sucks," but he's not on the field, so it has a different effect on the players. But again, is this the season in which the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl? I can't say yes or no for sure. So to me,
likely never was going to be.
And that's the thing too, is that this was supposed to be the year in which we develop these young players and we sneak up on the rest of the league with an easier schedule. Now you've lost Nick Bosa. You still kind of do what you're going to do, but when it comes to making a trade for, you know, a big time edge rusher, I'm sorry. Like I don't see this roster as a roster like, yeah, they're going to go all the way. We got to go all in. Now, 2 years ago, coming off the loss of the Eagles in the NFC title game, that team was stacked. That team was ready to win now. What did they do? They went out and they got Chase Young.
Yeah.
And when they announced that, what did we all do? I know I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. You know, like, John Lynch, I love you. And then we saw what he ended up being.
This feels more like, hey, we'll trade you a 7th round draft pick for a player of Randy Gregory's, you know, skill level, a guy that can come in, be a better depth piece. But really, like, when you think about it from not just a 1 year, like, zoned in on 2025, because if you do that, of course, you can easily buy into Hendrickson and Thibodeau and go out and get all these guys and just go all in. And okay, like, maybe that wins you something. The Rams did that a couple of years ago, the FM pick strategy, getting, you know, Odell Beckham Jr., getting Von, oh my God, what's his name?
Von Miller.
Thank you, Von Miller, from I think the Broncos at the time,
Yeah.
which it worked out for them. Whereas if you're San Francisco, I think you want to take a week to kind of assess things, see where you're at, see how the team responds. I do think this team is in a much better mental state than previous years, where they can afford to take a big hit and still kind of push through. This young team feels resilient. There's much better leadership in that room with Saleh. Koseric's still there, obviously. And if the offense can pick up some slack, they'll be in a good spot to still win games. Like, the season is not over, but Nick Bosa's season is over. Like, there's a big difference there. San Francisco is still 3-0. They are atop the NFC West. They have an easy schedule. The odds are San Francisco will likely still go to the playoffs, but they have to prove that still. And losing Nick Bosa really hurts and makes that harder. But San Francisco is still in a good spot, just not in a great spot where they once were before Nick Bosa getting hurt. That said, let's say you're in the group like Bobo, other guys in here that are saying, go all in, you know, get Hendrickson, get all these guys. You have an easy schedule now. But in 1 year's time, when that schedule's redone, and let's say you win the NFC West, you know what happens? You get a first-place schedule again. And if you don't have first-round picks, second-round picks, third-round draft picks to insulate your room, to give you more depth, your job then gets harder, not just this year, but also next year.
Yeah, but next year we'll have Nick Bosa.
You hope. You hope he comes back and he's healthy and he's good.
Okay, let me ask you this. I know we've been going for over an hour, but let me ask you this. Nick Bosa, right? He's going to recover. He's going to come back next year. He's under contract. He has to. But is this a situation where does this affect Nick Bosa's ability to play the game? Is he going to now say, you know what? Last season, I was going balls out. And what happened? Blew up my knee.
Yeah.
The last time I blew up my knee, I was coming off a great year, and I said, dude, I'm going to go all out. Blew up my knee. Now, he bounced back off that first ACL and had a monster year.
DPOY the next year.
Does he do that again? Or does he say, at my age, I'm going to go all out at times, but I'm not going to push it because I don't want to be out again? Is it going to cause him to be hesitant
So
to put that kind of pressure on his knees?
Is my dad texted me after I told him, and my dad is very quick to anger when it
You're like, he's a veteran in ACL tears.
to the San Francisco 49ers. So take it for what it's worth. But sometimes he questions more than he should, and sometimes he's right. But he said this: I don't understand why we have so many injuries. Are we pushing the guys too hard for too long? Doesn't seem like other teams have the sheer numbers of injuries that we do, which isn't exactly true, albeit the numbers look big because it's happening year after year after year. And San Francisco has been near the top of the injury list the last couple seasons. That said, I responded, and it kind of goes to what you're asking here of, maybe Nick Bosa takes plays off and takes time off, and he barely practiced in OTAs, or probably didn't practice at all. He didn't practice at all pretty much during training camp. It was 1 day off and 2 to 3 days off at a time. He didn't play the entire preseason. It wasn't like San Francisco didn't do everything they could to avoid this. Like, Nick Bosa was rarely on the field during training camp.
This has nothing to do with strength and conditioning. It has nothing to do with the training staff. I know that people are posting pictures of the training staff and how they should be fired. This is just a freak accident that he took on 2 blockers, he planted awkwardly, and boom, that was it. And this isn't like a Gus Frerotte where he rammed his head into the wall and gave himself a concussion. This just happens. I mean, the first time it happened, like, he got rolled up on, and a bunch of dudes were laying around, on the ground. And he came out of there with a bad knee. This just happens. It's unfortunate. It's devastating. But at least with the progress that we've seen from Mykel Williams, from Bryce Huff, from the young guys on our defensive line, we know that this team will continue to play strong. They're going to continue to have a good defense. We saw them have a good defense throughout the game against Arizona. So we just have to hope that they can continue to do so without Nick Bosa for the remainder of the season.
Well, so we have a question here, or kind of a comment by Gabriel in the YouTube chat, and they say, Bosa's contract is going to get redone during the offseason. I believe his cap next year is well over $40 million. And I have it up here on overthecap.com. And in 2026, his cap number jumps from $20 million to $42 million. In 2027, it jumps to $52 million. And in 2028, it drops back down to $42 million. So, yes, the odds are that Nick Bosa's contract is going to get redone. Now, let me ask you this, though. Does this injury, because we talked about it when Micah Parsons got paid. Bosa's going to hold out. He's going to want a new deal.
Remember that?
Redo everything, which now in hindsight, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But do you think this makes Bosa reluctant to redo his deal now to help out San Francisco?
Absolutely. I mean, look, it depends on what he feels is right. He might say, you know what, I'm out this season. I couldn't help my team. Let's do this because I want to make things right. Or he can say, fuck no. I want to make sure I'm getting all the money I'm going to get, because if this is a bigger problem, I want to make sure I'm taken care of. And look, we all know the Bosas want their money. They never shy away from money.
Yeah. Never
Look at Joey Bosa. He got a huge contract from the Buffalo Bills, and it was like, oh.
He's healthy. He's healthy right now.
He's healthy.
I would take Joey Bosa on this defense.
Imagine if they would have signed Joey Bosa, and then we lose Nick Bosa. Well, at least we got Joey. It's like,
we got the other one.
We got Uncle Joey. It just would have been like, oh, you're such the letdown Bosa of the two. Like you're just a shadow of your younger brother. But no, I don't think he's going to be willing to renegotiate his contract. I think he's going to leave it the way it is. He's out for the year. It's kind of like saying, hey, I know you got shot and you're down, but can you renegotiate your contract now to help us out? No, screw you guys.
It's like
try to hit me when I'm down.
It's like asking someone to like sign the waiver after they got hurt, and
Yeah.
you're like, wait a minute.
If he was healthy and they said, hey, we want to renegotiate your contract, but this is where it's going to benefit you. No, at this point, I don't think he wants to lose any money. He's already losing playing time. I don't think he wants to lose any money to go along. Do you
think it does give San Francisco some leverage over him to say, hey, like, you didn't play for us last year, your knee's messed up, which we hope it's healthy. Obviously, Nick Bosa, get back. We love Nick Bosa. This team is way worse without him. I think I speak for Dre and the entire fan base. We love Nick Bosa. In fact, I'm wearing the jersey right now. Bosa, please come back, man. Like, you are awesome. You're elite. We are sad without you here.
I can't believe this is really happening. It feels like it's a dream. I'm like, dude, this can't be real.
We are plagued. We are plagued. But do you think this does give San Francisco some leverage over him to say, look, yeah, you're hurt or you were hurt, and yeah, we get it. That does make you reluctant to redo your contract for us. But on our perspective, you were hurt. You may never be the same again. So we've done you good. We'll give you more guaranteed money, but we want to lower your cap hit to give us room to maybe find you somebody else behind you in case you go down again.
I just don't see it happening. I think it may come across in bad taste, and I just don't know if that's something that they're going to want to cross. They may have had those discussions already to some extent, but it'd be tough to say if they're going to approach him to restructure his contract coming off of an ACL tear, which was out of his control. You know, this isn't like the Madison Bumgarner. I drove an ATV and I fucking crashed and jacked up my arm,
my shoulder.
And I'm never the same ever again. This isn't like the Jeff Kent where he's like, I slipped washing my car. I really got into a motorcycle accident. You know, this is something that just happens, and I think they're just gonna stand pat. I think Nick's gonna stand pat and say, hey, I'm just gonna, I'll be back next season, and my contract's already set. I don't care how much it costs you guys, but this is what's gonna happen. There's a chance he could renegotiate, but I just don't see it happening.
Okay. This is the last thing I'll get into, and it's kind of a small thing, but in the grand scheme of things for San Francisco, under the Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch regime, they've handed out so many big contracts. It happens when you're good. You give out big money to keep staying good. That's how things work in the National Football League. But now with Bosa having 2 torn ACLs, albeit only one of them coming after getting paid and one of them before getting paid in 2020, where on the spectrum of, let's say, the right-hand side is good contract, that is Fred Warner, that is George Kittle, so far that is Lenore's contract, and maybe somebody else is in there I'm forgetting. And the bad end is right now Ayuk's contract, albeit there hasn't been much proven there, just an injury. Then there is Deebo Samuel's contract, who is really only good for like half a season after he got paid. There's Dee Ford's contract. Where on the spectrum of Bosa do you fall in regards to good contract right now or bad contract for the San Francisco 49ers?
I think it's a good contract. When you look at the guys who are signing these contracts right now, they're getting fat money. Yeah. So they're still saving money on a guy like Nick Bosa. He tore his ACL. Yeah, that sucks. But look, if he was on any other team, you could look at that team and say you'd be crazy to trade or give up on Nick Bosa, or to try and say that this deal is not going to work for you anymore. I think this is still a guy that has a ton of value. Obviously, we don't know what it'll be like when he comes back, but based on previous on past history, I think he'll be just fine. But yeah, no, I think this guy is worth every penny. And this just happens, man. I mean, the guy was tearing it up this season, and it happens. It happens to players every year. Somebody goes down with an ACL tear. I mean, we're human. I wish they can, if they tore the ACL and they replaced it with like a piece of metal or something that doesn't ever break again, that would be pretty cool. But they have not been able to figure that out yet. So it is what it is.
To end, let's look at the stats yesterday, albeit Bosa played 7 snaps, I believe. He wasn't out there. Well, it must have been more than that. How many snaps did Nick Bosa play against the Cardinals?
I don't know. His
yesterday.
Oh, you posted this. His defensive grade was 79.1. That's still pretty good.
Bosa played 14 snaps yesterday.
That sounds more realistic.
He played over a drive. So he played 14 snaps. Sorry, I've been saying 9 the entire show. I'm an idiot. I know.
I kept thinking about that too. I was like, was it really only 9?
The Cardinals had 3 back-to-back 10-plus drive. Anyways, this is via Kyle Posey of Niners Nation. He says this. The Niners pressure rate in the 14 snaps Bosa was out there yesterday against the Cardinals, when he was on the field, was 45.5%. Nearly half of the snaps, so 7 or 6 of the snaps he was out there, they had a pressure on. That's incredible. Without Nick Bosa for 3 quarters, only a 28% pressure rate.
Oh, my God.
That is what you're looking at here. Yeah. A team that has lost their best edge rusher, that the job, and we didn't even get into this, of Renardo Green, Lenore, Upton Stout, Jason Pinnock, Mustafa once he comes back, Marquis Siegel, all the talk of 2 rookies in the secondary, there's more pressure on them now too to perform. You can't get home, more time for quarterbacks, longer your coverage guys or your cornerbacks have to cover. It's a brutal loss for San Francisco. It makes everyone's life harder, more pressure on guys on the defensive line around him. It makes Warner and Winter's jobs harder. It makes the secondary's life harder. It makes the offensive job harder to go out there and put some more points on the board. This is an all-encompassing loss. This isn't like losing, Chase Lucas, who we love Chase Lucas, but he ain't Nick Bosa. It's not like losing Beal Jr. or Samuel Kawano. This is losing your best defensive lineman, your best edge rusher, your best pass rusher, one of your best run defenders. This, as a whole, makes the San Francisco 49ers a major worse team in so many facets. So big loss for San Francisco. We're all kind of soaking in this moment. We are here thinking, we're 3-0, feeling good, beat the Cardinals. And now it's like, here we go again. Hello, darkness, my old friend. It's just like...
It really is. It really is.
We can't escape this. We cannot escape the hell that is Niners and injuries and that disgustingly terrible dark cloud of a marriage they have seemingly made with the devil himself.
This is horrible.
But Dre, in this moment of sadness, tell the people out there where they can find your content.
You can find me on YouTube at Dre Area Sports. Like, share, and subscribe. You can also follow me over on Facebook, Instagram, and on X, all of which are at Dre Area Sports.
And you can find myself on X at 49ers_access. The Instagram is 49ers.access. Hopefully you guys can like, share. Go ahead, Dre. Go ahead.
Just a quick update. The Bengals that everyone's been talking about because of Trey Hendrickson, just as a reminder, the Bengals are 2-1 and they're in first place. They are not sellers.
Right now, a lot can change. That Vikings defense put a freaking hammering on Jake Browning.
It was so bad.
Anyways, you guys can hopefully subscribe, like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the audio podcasting platforms. Just now reached over 300 people live on YouTube and Facebook. You guys are great and awesome. Please comment down below your takeaways from Nick Bosa's injuries. Are you saying it's over? It is now Super Bowl and bust for San Francisco because the hopes are gone. They're never going to get there, at least in 2025. Or are you in the camp of, hey, Bosa's out, time to pivot, let's go all in somewhere else, whether it's Trey Hendrickson, whether it's Danielle Hunter, whether it's Kayvon Thibodeau? Who do you think San Francisco should trade for to replace Bosa? Or are you comfortable with Mykel Williams, Bryce Huff, and Robert Saleh back there getting it done for your 49ers? And how much pressure do you think it adds onto the offense? Really, do you believe San Francisco can survive and win and even thrive without Nick Bosa. Comment down below, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you to every single person in the YouTube chat. Usually I'd say all your names, but there's a ton of you in there, so I'm not going to do that now. Thank you to every single one of you out there. Thank you so much, Stray. And as always, my name is Sterling Bennett. That's Stray Area Sports. And until next time, hopefully it's a happier moment, but stay faithful.